Welcome on, welcome on. It is episode number 7 of KC Grid Talk, powered by shopakr.com. My name is Emory. We're going to be covering the Stars Championship Series, round number 1, Queen's Gambit at the Charlotte Motor Speedway tonight. With me, as always, I've got Kaleb Vieska here. Kaleb, how are we doing?
Good afternoon. Yeah, good. It's been it feels like a long week already. Tuesday, just waiting for the Stars Championship Series to roll around. But finals are kicking up for some of us college students that are still in college. I know for myself, Emory and Alex stressing out. Finals coming up, and going to Charlotte this weekend. So excited and stressed at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a big presentation today, another big presentation tomorrow. Finals in the next couple of weeks. I mean, it's grind time. And another
Yeah.
guy that has finals, the college experience, everything else going on, all from Gainesville, Florida. It's the man himself, Alexander Stroll. Alex, you're coming to Charlotte this weekend. You're flying solo on the pit reporting duties, but how are you feeling coming into this one?
I'm feeling good. I mean, Charlotte's always an awesome racetrack to go to, but I'm with you guys in terms of the final stress. I mean, presentation yesterday for me, another one due tomorrow. Emory, I know you and I are rooming together this weekend. I have a final I got to do that Thursday, so have fun
Gonna have
with
to
that
kick him
one.
out. Gonna have to kick him out. Gonna
I
have to kick
guess,
him out. Nobody
I
allowed
guess,
in.
I guess Top Golf might have to wait, I fear.
Yeah, Top Golf
So,
is definitely not happening
yeah.
this
Unfortunate.
weekend. We're gonna be too busy kart chasing, and then for all of us, gonna be studying up for finals, and I think I'm gonna be writing an essay, so
Yeah, I've got
we'll be good.
I've got work to worry about. We'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah.
That's a later problem. But
Hey, kart
right,
chaser comes first. All that stuff comes
KC,
second.
hey, KC on top. And if you happen to be interested in my academics, I am very serious and committed to my studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. All of this is in fact a joke. I do still care about that, but we have priorities here, and that's covering kart racing.
Yes,
So.
sir.
Uh, Tonight on the docket, of course, as I mentioned coming in, we are going to be talking about the Stars Championship Series, round number 1 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, the Queen's Gambit, as they say again, over 260 pre-entries already as of the end of last week. Don't quite have an official entry count now, but I know that a lot of the classes are very close to the entry maximums. We know in Oken and Shifter, it looks like there's going to be 2 solid fields there. And the main thing is it's the first time that we've seen a 2-stroke race at Charlotte on the repave since 2021. It's the first real national series to attack the Charlotte Motor Speedways on the 2-stroke side. Of course, CKNA has done the CKNA Spring Nats there. We've seen them run a couple of different times in the last few years as well. So they have some 4-stroke experience, and a couple of the guys that have been prominent on that series are going to be running this weekend. But for everyone else, it's been since 2020 since any sort of national series, and that was WKA back then. So you can draw your own conclusions off of that. But that was the last time that we've seen a national type series run an event here. And that weekend, there were only about 140, I think, in the first weekend and 120 or so in the second weekend. So by far the biggest race on the 2-stroke side of things to come to Charlotte. And again, the track has rubbered in a lot since that year when I first drove it. I got to run KA both of the 2 races that they've run KA there, and there's a few other guys that have done that as well. I don't think that many of them will be in this field. I know Hayden Jones is one that I believe might be racing this weekend. He'll be on the KA side of things. A lot of success on that track. I know Caleb Gaffera ran the old Charlotte, like the Charlotte Roval track, and he's from Concord, so both me and him are within 10 minutes of the track. So that's a little bit of trivia there that we both went to elementary school within 10 minutes, 4.5 miles of Charlotte Motor Speedway. So a few guys that have ties to the Speedway, but it's ultimately a new venue for the national race. And Alex, I mean, we were talking about this a little bit pre-pod. You think this is an underrated track? And I mean, what were your thoughts thinking about this track as you heard that it was going to be on the schedule to open up the Stars series?
Finally. I mean, like you said, CKNA goes there. Other series have been there, but it's been a while since we've seen a national level 2-stroke race go there. And I love this racetrack. I mean, I think it's one of the more underrated racetracks that we have on the calendar. I know it's fast, it's flowing. Some may say maybe there's not as many passing zones as they would like, but I think it invites great racing. It's more of a pack racing style of racetrack, but in terms of the fun that you're going to get out of a racetrack, I don't think there's much better racetracks than Charlotte Motor Speedway. I know you, Emory, North Carolina local there, you're a little blessed, I'd say, to have Trackhouse and Charlotte over there at the same time. So two of some of the best karting tracks that we'll see, and I can't wait. I know in every single class, I expect close finishes. It's really hard to walk away around this racetrack. With not as many passing zones, I think it'll be interesting to see how some of these drivers attack it. But nonetheless, I think it invites great racing.
Yeah, I want to kind of mention that a little bit. I think I am very lucky to have Charlotte and Trackhouse close within. In fact, Charlotte, again, like I mentioned, I think I'm about as close to Charlotte, or at least I was back when I was racing more frequently when we lived in Concord. I was as close to Charlotte as pretty much anyone to any track in the country outside of Finn and Gavin at Cincinnati. So there was an advantage there, but on the flip side, it's kind of a unique situation where you don't get to practice much. It's a lot like Daytona in that sense. It's hard to find track time with the amount of different things they use that track and use Charlotte Motor Speedway for. So it's not going to be a home track advantage, I would say, too much for the North Carolina locals unless you've driven the little bit of club stuff that they tried there a few years ago, as well as a couple of the national races like WK and like CKNA. But ultimately, I think that, I mean, it is an interesting flowing track, as Alex alluded to. They repaved it in 2019 is when they started the repave, finished in 2020. Before that, it was a staple on the old WK series, as well as a couple other series back in the late 2000s, early 2010s, and obviously before that as well. So it is very popular, of course. It's a bit different since the repave. Earlier, like pre-2010, the track was very much kind of known for being a bit narrow, a bit pretty bumpy as well, and again, hard to pass, but very flowing, more of a driver's track. Since then, uh, as John Wareheim mentions it here, I'm not going to necessarily agree with the whole they ruined it statement, but they did make it quite a bit wider, which changes how you race it. It changes how you gear for the track. It changes kind of how the track races in general. So it's a different type of track, I will say, and we've gotten questions over the course of the last week or so about how it compares to tracks in the national layout. I'd say the big difference is it's fast, it's very flowing. There's only one real slow speed corner on the Charlotte Motor Speedway track. And speaking of that, here's a look at the Charlotte Motor Speedway track layout here. And you can see, again, they're running in the counterclockwise direction. So turn one is going to be the entrance to the double left right past the start zone that is shown in yellow. You can see turns 2 and 3, a fast right left section, 4 and 5 as well, also a left right fast. And then you get on to the turn 5 down through the back straightaway into the sweeper and beyond that. So there's a lot of kind of fast corners. I think it'll be tough to pass around that track, especially in the quicker categories. The OKN and the OKNJ or the OKJ category is going to be interesting to watch this weekend. But Caleb, I mean, when you look at this track, obviously you've been here for CKNA, you've seen it kind of play out. What sort of stood out to you over the course of that weekend and what you've seen from the Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, my first time going there was a month ago, I'd say, whenever we went out there for the CKNA Spring Nats, and I mean, it's just the vibe that you get in that track is just is different, right? I mean, you go in through the gate and you look around and you're in a NASCAR track, right? You're in a big track where I mean, where some people would dream to race in. So I mean, the vibe of the track is definitely something else. Whenever you emerge from the tunnel and get to the actual track, and that was just for for the spring nationals, and it was a great event. The racing was great all weekend long as well. I mean, not many people could get away. There were some passing zones, but I mean, it is quite difficult to pass through there, and that, I mean, some of the big ones that we saw are throughout the back section, the back straightaway. It's kind of like on a banking, and I mean, but overall, that the passing zones that you get through there, I mean, are pretty good. I mean, there's some passing zones, but there's it's going to be quite difficult to try and make moves and to make them stick around here, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that as a whole, it's interesting to note that the track itself is different from um, many other tracks in the sense that I think, unlike what Alex said, I think it is possible to break away. When I drove here 4 years ago in K8, we had a race that had myself, Hayden Jones, Paulie Massimino, Luca Mors, and Justin White at the time. I think we're kind of the five, and Max Opolsky as well. We're kind of the six that were up towards the front of the field that weekend. And it's one of the very few tracks where I really feel like Dirty Air is going to play a part. I mean, we know that it's kind of a discussion we rarely really have in kart racing, but I think that the dirty air effect, especially through that long left-handed sweeper, you really start to see where kind of the front will wash out, and it makes it a little bit tougher to follow right behind people. And I think the quicker sections, you don't see it as much in CKNA. You didn't really see it in the LO206 side of things, but I think that's going to make it to where the passing opportunities, they'll still be there, but you're going to have to be right on it and really kind of offset the dirty air effect to make things happen. But I think you make a good point about the atmosphere of Charlotte. I mean, I guess it's something that I've taken for granted a little bit just because of the proximity of the track and everything, but it is one of the pinnacle tracks on the NASCAR calendar. It's one that has hosted an IndyCar race, it's hosted IMSA, it's hosted a lot of NASCAR stuff, obviously kind of the home to NASCAR racing throughout the last 70 to 80 years. So there's a lot to like about the Charlotte Motor Speedway. There's the dirt track, there's the drag strip within a mile as well. So a lot of kind of pedigree around Charlotte, but certainly it's a unique event, and I have to give kudos to Stars for going out and making this the first race, because if you haven't run a speedway race before, if you haven't run inside the Charlotte Motor Speedway and this is your first time getting to go, it is a really fabulous experience, and you'll get to see the Revel track, you'll get to see the banking and kind of see all that, and the track itself. Again, I think the wideness of it is something that will make, I think, for a good race and shifter. I'm excited to see how the shifters drive on that track. I do think the OKN and the KAs are going to be interesting to see how the racing unfolds, because again, it's a different track, a lot more high speed stuff than what we're used to seeing kind of more on the national calendar. So I think that will be a little bit it'll be something that we're gonna have to monitor, but the shifter racing should be fun and the atmosphere is great. And I think more than anything, I'm just excited to have a track that's, again, with as much history and heritage, so to speak, of Charlotte back on the circuit, guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, like I said, right, the first time you go there, you emerge from the tunnel, it's chills, right? Just being at that track and just very happy that we have kart racing, and not only that, but a national series with the pro show that's going to be out there this weekend. So just super excited for all that to come this coming weekend.
Yeah, and so getting into the pro show stuff again. This is the first year we're back again with the pro show format and Stars. Last year we saw the inclusion of OKN for the first time, as well as Shifter, of course, which has been kind of the headline category in Stars for the last 5 years since their inception in 2020. So heading into this year, guys, as you look at Stars as a whole, before we get into the class-specific previews and predictions, what do you think some of the main storylines for the series as a whole are going to be this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we got a bit of a preview there with the SCUSA Pro Show. Now with Stars, we got another Pro Show coming. I think we saw the inclusion of OKN last year. Now we have OKN again. It's a growing class. We're seeing a lot of drivers who run in the X30 or the KA side on, a SCUSA level or a USPKS level come over to run OKN here. Some even doing shifter or just going down to K and having a fun time here with the Stars guys. So I think we're in for a treat. Stars always puts on an incredible show. I mean, you said it, Emory, earlier. Kudos to the Stars guys for making this the first race of the season, because I think, with it being the first national two-stroke race in a while here, no better way than do it at a pro show. I think it's going to be electric. Kaleb, you alluded to it, right? I think, like Emory, this was kind of like my second home for a while. Charlotte area, I ran a lot of the track house stuff, and I've been to this racetrack multiple times. So I think on that aspect, I'm a little bit, you know, uh, lucky in that sense to be able to call this kind of a second home for me. So I never fully took it in with how cool it is to actually be inside of a NASCAR racetrack and race there, and with this being such an awesome racetrack to drive on, in my opinion. I think the Stars guys do an awesome job, and we're in for awesome racing throughout. I mean, you said it, the shifter race is going to be interesting to watch because we don't see shifters on this racetrack very often. So with it being a fast flowing racetrack, it'll be interesting to see how they're able to defend, how the draft plays into effect, how the dirty air plays into effect. I know when I drove here, the dirty air was an issue, especially through the fast left sweeping corner. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think Oken's going to be an awesome class to watch all the way throughout. I mean, with having to keep the revs up at a fast racetrack, it's going to be super important to get the gear right, get the setup right for those guys. And then KA, I think that's going to be one of the most fun classes we see all weekend with how tightly packed I can expect that class to be. I mean, we see it with 206. We saw with CKNA how awesome every single race was. So I'm just excited to get started, come Friday morning here at Charlotte. So I think the Stars guys are going to put on a great show, as they always do.
Yeah, and again, with the KA side of things, I think it's been 3 years or so since we've seen the KAs run at Charlotte, and certainly when I ran it again, it was a cool race to see because there was a lot of different setup stuff you could do. I think the tire wear is we have not seen an X30, an OKN, or a shifter race on this track, and the tire wear for Charlotte in itself will be kind of interesting because when we first ran it back in 2020, there was a lot of graining, not a whole lot of actual wear on the tire though. So like we were able to run 3, 4, 5 sessions and go quicker and quicker, even though every session we came off in the rear right tire looked like it had gone through a war zone. So that'll be something to monitor for sure. Though dirty air, like Alex and I mentioned, is something that is a factor at this track that I really haven't seen be a big factor in other tracks that we go to. And Kaleb, I mean, we're talking about a new year for Stars, a new format with the Pro Show. It's similar to what SCUSA has done. The qualifying is more regular than the Pro style or than the Super Bowl style qualifying that SCUSA's gone for. But a difference that they have on the Saturday slate is that they have 2 heat races instead of 1. So, Kale, when you saw the schedule come out and you saw kind of the new format for Stars, what was your take on it, and how do you think it's going to race over the course of this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it being a new year, a new era for American karting in general, right? With the 2 pro shows that are taking place, SCUSA was obviously the first one that we saw this year, and then Stars is up next, right? Both a little different. I think one of the takeaways that we took from SCUSA, we wanted to see a little bit more racing, maybe from the feedback that we got around the paddock, and we're gonna get that with Stars, right? So we have 2 heat races. That'll help us set up that grid, and then the longer main events, the longer finals. So it just kind of gets drivers. It throws something else into the equation, right? That we talked about last time out at the SCUSA Pro Tour. Tire wear is gonna have a big effect as well. Drivers are gonna have to start managing their tires a little bit better. Maybe having to let a guy go on the second lap because there's 28 laps left in the race, right? So it's going to be a little different and give these drivers and push them to really get to where they are and make it a pro class like it's called. Right. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, these are, some of the best drivers in the nation, some in the some best in their country. So having them come out here and race against each other is going to be really cool to see. So I'm super excited. I'm loving that we're going to get to see 2 heat races from the pro guys. In in the OKN and in the shifter. So it's going to be, a little bit more racing, and it's going to be something cool to see.
Yeah, and again, the format, to be completely exact, you have 3 free practices heading into qualifying for the pro guys. So first off, actually, I should mention on the normal side of things, the semi-pro amateur level classes, you have 4 rounds of practice and qualifying on Friday. So that is different than USPKS. That's the same. Excuse me. That's the same style of schedule as what we saw at USPKS. It's a slight change from what Stars has done in the past, where they've had optional Friday practice and then qualifying starts on Saturday. So semi-pro classes, you have 4 rounds of practice, qualifying at the end of the day Friday. Then we get into the pro show. You have 3 practice sessions: FP1, FP2, FP3. They're 10-minute blocks with 30-minute breaks in between Pro Stars and OKN Stars, between session 1, session 2, and session 2 and session 3. You get about a 20-minute break between the final practice session and pro qualifying, and then it's a basic 10-minute session from there. So that's how the Friday schedule work. Saturday, pretty similar to what we've seen in the past, except for on the semi-pro side of things, you have 2 heat races and a pre-final, which is going to be, you add in the pre-final, which used to be on Sunday. Now it will just simply be on Saturday. So that's 3 racing sessions that are in on Saturday. And then the pro show will have a 7-minute warm-up, and then Moto 1 and Moto 2, which are the 2 heat races. Those will be roughly 17 minutes in length, I believe. Not exactly sure. It might be 15 actually on each of the 2 heat races. But either way, it's in 20-minute time blocks. That will come after the semi-pro races. And then on Sunday, you have warm-ups. You have the finals for the semi-pro classes, 15 minutes plus 2 laps. And then you have 18 minutes and 2 laps for the pro categories. So if you're wanting to know how many laps that will end up being, 18 minutes around Charlotte at about a 39 to 40 second lap, I would imagine OKN is going to be roughly 30 laps plus 2. So you're going to end up with 30 to 32 laps in the final, probably upwards of 22 to 24 laps in each of the 2 heat races. And then obviously qualifying and pre-practice is what you make of it. So long races around Charlotte, tire wear is going to be a critical factor. And I feel like this is kind of the right balance between what we were talking about after round 1 of Pro Tour and what we've talked about throughout, which is, at the end of the day, it's the pro show. You want to make sure that you get kind of a heightened sense of urgency with each of the classes. You want to give enough time on the schedule, on the races, to really sort things out. It made the racing in Orlando, I feel like, really clean. I feel like it has potential to do the same here in Charlotte. And you're also getting more track time with the 2 heat races, because in Charlotte, or in Orlando, we saw that it was only 1 pre-final, which to me worked out great. I think that it's more than enough time to get a representative view of the field. 2 heat races, though, brings in a little bit more track time. You have the 3 free practices at the end of the day on Friday. So there's a lot to like about this format. And I mean, Alex, you get into the pro show now. You have Oken and Shifter. It's a brand new track for everyone. And to be honest with you, those guys are kind of going to be going in blind at the end of the day on Friday. Their first sessions, and they only get an hour. You have basically an hour and a half between the time that you go out for the first session of practice until when you're going out to qualify. I mean, as a driver, as someone that knows Charlotte, as someone that's kind of been around that track, how much pressure is that going to put on the drivers to get that track sorted out, and also put yourself with the right setup to have a good shot heading into qualifying?
Well, first I'm gonna say, welcome to the pros, right? I mean, this is what it's all about. This is awesome. I mean, that's how it should be. I don't think there should be, 7 practices, 10 minutes a pop, and you go out there and you could dial in a bunch of engines and then, be ready for qualifying. It should be exactly how it is, right? You got basically an hour and a half, boom, you got to go qualify. Pressure, to answer your question, pressure's on, right? But these are good drivers. These are some of the best drivers that we see around the country. And like Kaleb said, coming from different countries, this is an international crowd. I mean, this is some of the best that we're going to see in the world. From OKN, KA, Shifter, you name the class. So the pressure's on, but especially for the OKN and the Shifter guys with the pro show format. So, like you said, tire wear is going to be an issue. And with the practices not being that long, there's no way to really gauge where you're going to stack up in the heat races until the first heat race happens. Like you said, with it being a 22, 24 lap heat race, that's a long race around any racetrack. And Charlotte is physical. It may not seem like it with, how quick it is, but that's why it's physical. The sweeper, I mean, I know when I drove there, my neck was hanging off by Sunday afternoon. So physical racetrack. So they're going to be tested physically, mentally, their chassis, their setup, everything's going to be tested. And at the end of the day, the pressure, I think, is on everybody, the team as a collective. As a driver, these guys know what it takes to go around a racetrack. I think I would be shocked if after session 3 or 4, if I'll be shocked if I ask any drivers before qualifying, yeah, listen, I'm still figuring out the racetrack. Maybe there'll be a couple, but the racetrack is there's a lot of corners that they've driven around in other places before, and for those there's someone the entry list that are local to Charlotte, and some of them have been here before, a couple years ago, obviously, but some have been here. Those who haven't, I think, will pick it up pretty easily. But for the teams to get the setup right, to get the tire pressures right, to get the engine package correct with limited sessions before qualifying, that's going to be critical. And then obviously it's up to the drivers to go out there and actually put in the work and do the homework beforehand, because that's what it's going to take, because you don't have much time on the racetrack to go out there and study. So I think this is awesome. This is what pro karting is all about, and this is what the pro show is all about. And I think it's going to create for a spectacle, and this is, like Kaleb said, it's a new era in karting. And so, yeah, pressure's on these drivers, pressure's on the teams, and pressure's a little bit off of us because we get to go and watch some good racing.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. It's also the first time, I believe, that MG tires have been used on this track, which is pretty crazy. Normally, I would have a pretty good idea of what the tire pressure window or gearing window would be, because I've driven around a lot of these tracks, at least on like the KA side of things. But it's an unknown for everyone, and especially with those classes having to go on the softer compound tire, you're going to see, I think, a lot of variance when it comes to setup initially, and it probably will converge by the end of the weekend. But again, it's a shot into the dark, it's a shot into the unknown. And Caleb, I mean, last thoughts on this format and kind of what you think the challenges that having such short practice on a new track will throw up to some of these guys?
Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, Emory, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's sort of like a hot pit type of thing. Am I right about that, or was that thrown out of the picture?
I believe I'm pretty sure they still have the hot pit to some degree. I'd have
Okay.
to get clarification on that. But
All right. So yeah, we're obviously gonna need clarification, but if it is the hot pit, which was the idea whenever the pro show was pitched to these series. Yeah, I mean, if you have a hot pit like that, right, it's going to be very similar to what we see at the Miami Grand Nationals at during the August time of the year. But if it is that way, then we're going to see a lot of teams coming together, working on those pro karts, trying to get them up to speed, trying to add the focus to get them up to speed, and it's really gonna make it more difficult for some teams to slap on a third engine or to slap on as many engines as they want. If whatever they have on isn't as quick as they may have thought. So I mean, again, right, so some of the other bigger teams who can slap on 3 or 4 engines during a practice session to see which one's the quickest and then go out and run with that, they're not gonna be able to do that because you only have about 30 minutes in between a session. If you have 4 mechanics do it and 4 of the best mechanics in the paddock, then maybe you can get it done. But it's going to be difficult and bring the field a little closer together, I think.
yeah, it'll certainly bring the field, I don't know about closer together, but add in some more parity early on
Yeah.
in the weekend. And I think that's an important thing, because when you get into these sorts of races, in F1, we always like to say when you give them 3 free practices and qualifying before anything comes up, most of the time they're going to find the right setup. In karting, if you have a full weekend of testing before the race, if you have Thursday practice, and then you have 4 sessions on Friday before you ever get into qualifying, most of the time the guys that have the most resources, that have the most experience with setup, are usually going to find the right setup by the time they get to qualifying. So with only 3 practices and not enough time to really throw in axles consistently or change engines, like you mentioned, Caleb, that's going to mean the strategy of how you go about the weekend's a little bit different. Now, granted, I think already a lot of the engine testing will have been done before you ever get to Friday of practice, but it's still worth keeping an eye on. I think it's still going to be a difference in this weekend. So that's on the format side of things. But when we come back from break, we're going to have a full preview of the weekend as well as the season with some more specific names to go along with the stars of the Stars Championship Series. But first, we've got a word from our partners.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
All right, we're back and ready to preview the pro classes of the Stars Championship Series. Again, this is going to be the first round of the Pro Show, the 2024 Stars Championship Series, and I could not be more excited to get back into it. Of course, last year we saw some good racing across both of the pro categories, the Stars Championship in general, and I think there's going to be a lot of good racing this weekend as a whole. Of course, you got a stacked KA field, KA junior field that's, I believe, all the way at capacity with 70 drivers. You see OKJ's in the fray now, so that's going to be worth watching. And then, of course, the cadet categories have put on a show so far in 2024. Those will be worth watching. But as we get set to go for Pro Show round number 1 of the season, of course, this is going to be a 4-round championship. A lot of good tracks here on the calendar. Of course, starting out the year here in Charlotte, you go to Newcastle, you go to Cincinnati, and then you end off the season at the Trackhouse Motorplex back in North Carolina to end off the year in September. So kind of in a way starting it within 30 minutes or ending it within 30 minutes of where you started it, but still a lot of good races, 4 unique racetracks, 4 unique different challenges. But starting off with this weekend, as of the last time I checked the entry list on the OKN side of things, there were 18 entries, so a pretty solid field so far on the OKN side of things. Of course, there's going to be a few more, I would imagine, that get trickled in as last-minute entries. This was as of last Friday. Defending champion Brandon Carr comes back again from last season. Different team with the Turning Karting Group this season. He's going to be in the OKN category. You've got Aiden Fox, of course, coming off of the Purdue Grand Prix win last weekend. It was a 1-2 for Stars Championship Series drivers. It's him and Raif Shaw representing Kappa Sig, able to come away with the 1-2 in the Purdue Grand Prix. So congrats to those boys, making us karting folk in the Stars Championship look good with their results. Peyton Phillips coming back on board for the OKN stuff. Again, he ran the X30 race in Houston for Speed Sports. He's run X30 at the Supernats last year, and I believe this is his third 125cc start in the last year along with that. Other names, you got a couple veterans in the field. You've got Ryan Raffa coming in. You've got, of course, Josh Holtz back aboard the Holtz Driver Development Machine. Nick Terlecki had a few strong runs in OKN last year as well. He's aboard number 88 machine. Caleb Gaffera, Concord, North Carolina's finest, is going to be racing at home this weekend. It's a home race for him. He'll be his first national race of the season, so interesting to watch for him. He's been off to a good start at the Trackhouse Club Series. Henry Wheeler, one of the few guys that has a lot of experience around the Charlotte track, having raced CKNA the last few years. He had obviously a really strong campaign last year, narrowly missing out on the championship. And of course, a couple of household names in the mix as well, like Diego Ramos and ZCD making a return. So, Caleb, as you looked at this entry list, what were some of your main impressions?
Yeah, I mean, we obviously didn't see the PSL guys out at the United States Pro Kart Series, but we're going to see him at the Stars Championship Series. And Diego Ramos, he's definitely going to catch your eye whenever you see him on an entry list, right? I mean, he's been quick, been a runner up at a couple of championship series last year. I mean, he's always up there fighting at the front, and definitely one of the guys to watch. Reigning champion Brandon Carr. Last year he had a really good year with the Ryan Perry team, but this year obviously switching teams, going to Kart Republic with the Trinity Karting Group guys. So he's definitely one of the guys to watch. If I'm not mistaken, I think Peyton Phillips is going to run with RPM this weekend as well. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do in the OKN class. And I mean, Henry Wheeler, I mean, we really can't forget about Henry, right? He has a lot of laps around Charlotte. He was out here a couple of weeks ago running that the CKNA Spring Nationals, and new year, new team for him as well. He was a runner-up last year. What was the last lap battle, a battle to the end for Henry Wheeler. Ultimately ended up losing it, but he's going to be he's definitely going to want to come back for some revenge and try and get that championship this year. So Henry Wheeler with the PSL guys as well. Two PSL drivers, and Diego Ramos and Henry Wheeler, two of the guys to watch. And ZCD, of course, he always makes it interesting for us, and I'm interested to see what he can do in this OKN class.
Yeah, and so Alex, again, Caleb did a good job there of laying out some of the storylines, but how about some of the younger guys in this series that I think could make an impact? You've got Caleb Gaffera, his second year of senior racing. Last year, we saw him run pretty consistently towards the top 10 in most of the races that he ran with a few different teams. This year, kind of taking a slower approach to starting out the national season. I know he's been doing some car racing, a little bit more on the local level as well. But he's one. You've got Peyton Phillips coming back to run the 125cc stuff. As I mentioned, Wesley Gundler, of course, won the Rotax National Championship last year. He's running OKN after a strong season in 2023. Talk to me about some of the other stories in the field that kind of catch your eye on the entry list as we get set to go for an OKN class that I feel like has a lot of unique stories throughout the field when it comes to guys coming from different backgrounds and different places to race in the same category.
Yeah, this field's great. I think another name that catches my eye is Shea Aldrich. That's the driver that's been really, really quick, had a good campaign last year. Obviously, you can't forget about Ryan Raffa. He was actually pretty fast on the OKN package. I mean, he was a bit of a few unlucky breaks away from being a really big contender in the championship last year. So Ryan Raffa is one that I'm having my eye on. He's probably my dark horse pick for this weekend. You talked about Diego Ramos. I spoke with him last week at Homestead. He said, listen, I asked him, have you tested before? He goes, I haven't driven this engine package at all. The only thing that is in his favor is back when he drove in Brazil, they had a very similar style of engine package, basically the same thing. So, because over there it was okay. So, yeah, he said it actually suits his driving style better than the X30 does. So he doesn't feel too off having not driven the package before. So I think Diego will be up to speed as we can expect. Caleb, you already touched on it, right? Brandon Carr, the champion from last year, we expect him to be fast again. Aiden Fox was quick last year, got that win over in Newcastle. Henry Wheeler, cannot forget about Henry Wheeler, right? I know you mentioned him already, but again, another contender in the OKN field. So I think the main storyline here, and the word that I keep saying, contender. A lot of returning contenders from last year's championship, campaign, returning. New names in the field like Wesley Gundler. We see Shea Aldrich. ZCD's obviously gonna, be in the mix whenever his name's on the entry list. So excited to have him. I think Terlecki's a fun one. I think Nicholas Terlecki's gonna be one where if he can get it right, I think he's gonna be fast. We've seen him be really quick last year in his X30 campaign. I think him now in OKN is going to be really fun to watch. And if the Holtz guys can really give him a good package, him and Josh Holtz, I think that's going to be something to watch for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like with Terlecki as well, they've put a lot of time over the course of the last year. Of course, last season switched engine builders midway through the year. It looked like they kind of had some inconsistencies on the OKN side, but when they got it right, like you mentioned, Alex, in Cincinnati, Terlecki was really quick in Trackhouse at the start of the season. Nick was within a couple tenths of what Brendan Carr and Brent Cruz were doing in the final. And really, they were thereabouts for most of the season. Of course, on the X30 side, we've seen Terlecki have a lot of good pace at Cincinnati last year, as well as at Trackhouse for the Miami Grand Nationals and a couple other places as well. So there's a lot to like about Nick Terlecki, but I think, as you mentioned, as a whole, the field seems like there's a solid 12 to 13 guys that I would say could easily be in podium contention. And it's really a new track for pretty much all of them. Of course, I mentioned that Henry Wheeler was kind of the only one that stood out to me on the entry list that had a lot of experience around this track. And I could be missing someone. I want to put it past me, but I know Kaleb Gaffara's main experience came back in 2019 on the old Charlotte layout. I don't know if he's put any laps on the new layout. And I know that pretty much any of the other guys that have been on the national calendar the last 3 years have not driven this track. So again, new track for a lot of these guys, new engine package for a solid half of them. Going to be some interesting variables. But Kaleb, as we get set for this weekend, who do you see coming out in the top 5?
Man, that was the question I really hoped you really didn't ask me. But I mean, there's so many great drivers in this field, right? So I mean, I really can't doubt Henry Wheeler. I really think he has a lot of laps around this place. He's probably the driver who's drove it the most recently. You know, he was with the BJR team last year, and yeah, he has struggled on the you know, on the Bro to start the year, but I think, you know, he's really comfortable on the OKN package, and I think it's going to be a really good weekend for Henry Wheeler. So he's probably going to be my pick this weekend. I see Diego Ramos up there. You know, if he doesn't win, then I see him right up there in second with Henry. So it could be a 1-2 for PSL this weekend. Brandon Carr, I see him up there in the top 5 as well. So maybe a third. You know, and again, any of these guys can win that I'm going to name in my top 5. So Brandon Carr is definitely up there. I'd go with Aiden Fox. You know, Aiden Fox as well. I see him either up there on the podium, challenging for a win, or around the top 5. So Aiden Fox as well. And I'm gonna have to end it off with a guy who's been strong and who's had a lot of laps this year, Nicholas Terlecki, as well for the Holtz driver development team. So yeah, so my top 5: Henry Wheeler, Diego Ramos, Brandon Carr, Aiden Fox, and Nicholas Terlecki.
Solid. And real quickly, I did some quick research while Kaleb was talking there. Kaleb Gaffara did run the 2020 race at Charlotte Motor Speedway, so he's another guy that has experience on that track. Alex, not sure if that changes your pick one way or the other, but go for it. Who's your top 5 in OKN?
Yeah, you kind of spoiled it. You spoiled it there a little bit because I had Gaffara up there. I didn't have him winning, but I think in order, I'm going to give you an order here. This is for Charlotte. This is not for the championship. So for Charlotte, give me, I think Terlecki a 5th. A top 5 will be good for Terlecki. I think he'll be one, like we mentioned earlier. If they get it right, a contender for the win. Still a contender for the win. Anybody in these top 5, like you said, there's about 12 or 13 guys here that can really go out there and contend for a podium, if not a win. So most likely we're going to see this battle for the top 5, come down to the last lap. So Terlecki in the top 5. I like Ryan Raffa. I think Raffa is going to be a guy that I can see a 5th or a 4th, and maybe even further up if you can avoid some of the unlucky situations that happened to him like last year. So Raffa is one that I think is in my top 5. I like Gaffara. He's been doing some karting this year. Did some 206 racing over there at AMP recently. So, making the transition to cars, but always good to see him back at the kart track. So for Kaleb, I think he's a good top 3, maybe even, 2 or 1. So look out for Kaleb this weekend. I think Ramos is one. While he hasn't driven the OKN package, like he told me, he's driven the OK package before, and it suits his driving style a lot. And when Diego tells me that, I believe him. So give me Ramos up there in the top 2. And I think my winner is going to be Brandon Carr. He had a really strong start to the season last year. I think new team for him, obviously, on the OKN side. So compared to what he ran last year. So I think for Brandon Carr, I think he's going to, start where he left off. And he's going to win this race. Now, I didn't mention Aiden Fox. I didn't mention Phillips. I didn't mention a bunch of guys. And again, that just proves how tough this field is, because at the end of the day, it's almost criminal that I don't have those guys in my top 5. And so I hope they prove me wrong, and they probably will. I think Aiden Fox obviously was quick. He had a win last year at Newcastle on the Oken package. Peyton Phillips, you can't count that guy out at any racetrack. So, yeah, and there's a bunch of other drivers here. Wesley Gunler's won, DCD's won. Like I said, Shea Aldrich. So there's a bunch of drivers here that I can see getting a top 5. But the 5 that I gave you, Terlecki, Rafa, Gafarar, Ramos, Carr, those are the drivers that I have in my top 5.
Yeah, solid top 5 again. There's so many different options here. So many guys that you could see in contention for a podium. So I like that top 5, Alex. I'm going to go in reverse order. I think in 5th place, another solid race. This seems a bit low for him, honestly, but I think Brandon Carr slots into 5th. He's shown pretty good pace on the Trinity Karting Group Kart Republic at different points this year. He showed decent pace in OKN last year, obviously winning the championship. But if you look at race over race, you would say the only race that he had the quickest pace on average was in the first round of Trackhouse. But ultimately, I think Carr is going to have a good start to the year. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to win. But again, being in 5th does not mean that it's me taking a shot. I think he's still going to be in contention to be in there for a podium, if not a race win. I just think that the top 4 have just a slight edge in that. I think 4th place, I'm going to go with Wesley Gumler. Again, the guy that last year we saw a lot of success on the Rotax package. Somewhat similar power delivery from an OK into Rotax. Again, you're talking about 2 different types of engines there. But at the end of the day, you have kind of that similar, little bit more questionable bottom end power delivery. I think that's something that Gumler has a lot of experience on. I think the OKN package, he's done a lot of testing over the last year or so, I believe, in the X30 and a little bit more in OKN as well. So Gunler, for me, another guy that I don't know if he's done laps around Charlotte, but he's certainly close enough to the Charlotte area that it counts for me. It's sort of a home race for him. So I'm going to have him going in 4th. I think Nick Terlecki in 3rd. This is a track that, having known Nick's driving style a little bit, I think it suits his input. He's pretty consistent when it comes to kind of longer radius corners. And when you look at the tracks that he tends to do well at, you have Speed Sports, right, which has kind of a very quick first section, which if you think back to KA last year, he was extremely strong in. He was quick at the quicker stuff in Orlando. He's been good at Cincinnati last year. It was probably his best race on pace in OKN. So I think this track fits Nick Terlecki's driving style well. I think he's kind of matured a lot when it comes to avoiding incidents. And again, I think this is going to be one with the lack of testing, kind of being on it right away is going to be very important. I feel like that kind of suits Nick in a sense. So I have him finishing 3rd. And then the top 2, again, this is what I've gone back and forth on. I think Diego Ramos slots into 2nd. Diego does not have a lot of laps around or on OK and women's 0, in fact, as he heads into this weekend. I know it suits his driving style, but that is still something that the PSL boys will have to kind of iron out a little bit over the course of the weekend, and they don't have a lot of practice to be able to do it. It's also a track that Diego hasn't run. Of course, the driver is of his caliber, not a big concern, but it is a slight disadvantage. And that's why P1, in case I haven't foreshadowed enough, I think this is a weekend that Kaleb Gaffera is able to pick up the win, because I think he has a home track advantage in a sense. He's the only driver in this field outside of Henry Wheeler that's driven the track. He's the only guy that's driven it on a 2-stroke package. I think that sort of fits the bill of what you're looking for when it comes to home track advantage. He'll have a lot of experience in the kart over the course of the season, and he's also someone that has driven a lot of high caliber races over the last few months. It's one of the things that I think that a lot of guys maybe overlook. But when you look at Gaffera over the course of his karting career, he's had to drive a lot in these kind of high stakes races where you have such a competitive field. I think against the likes of some of the more inexperienced guys that we know are going to be really quick, that maybe haven't driven as much 125cc stuff, it's an advantage. I think with the home track advantage, the power will probably end up getting on the OKN side of things, as well as the fact that he's been able to drive a lot of the last few months. I think this is a good race for Gaffera, and one that I would say I'm personally going to favor him to win in. But again, there's so many guys that could win. We saw Brandon Carr. I've got him finishing 5th. I could easily put him in 1st. It wouldn't surprise me. Peyton Phillips, not having him in the top 5, that honestly surprised me personally. But then I went down the list. I was like, I don't really see one of the guys I'd feel comfortable picking him over as of yet. Henry Wheeler has so much speed in the OKN package last year. He's not in my top 5. ZCD, anytime ZCD's out there, he's a threat. To get to the top 5. So that has a lot to weigh in as well. And then you have other guys, Josh Oates. I mean, Josh might kill me for not having him in this top 5, but I think that it's certainly possible. He showed a lot of speed in Texas. He kind of had one of his better weekends that we've seen from him in the 125 category. But the point is, like, there's at least 10 to 12 guys I could see on the podium. So that's this weekend. I think over the course of a 4-round championship, it will start to sort of clear itself up a little bit. And I'm curious to see who you guys have winning the championship battle. Kaleb, I'll start with you.
Dude, these questions just get harder and harder as we ask, right? So I mean, we got to take into consideration who's running the whole season. I think I'm gonna go down the order and work my way to the top. Man, in 5th, if I'm gonna say probably Aiden Fox. In 5th, I got dude. This one's tough. So I got Aiden Fox in 5th. In 4th, I'm gonna go with Nicholas Terlecki. Nicholas Terlecki, I have him in 4th. In 3rd, I have Henry Wheeler. In 2nd, I have Brandon Carr, and winning the championship, I have Diego Ramos. He's really good around Newcastle. He was really quick last year around MCC. I can't remember how he did at Trackhouse whenever we went out there for USPKS, but I mean, I think it's going to be a new track for Diego, but I think past this round, he's probably one of the favorites to win at MCC and at Newcastle. So I could see Diego Ramos being the 2024 Stars champion.
All right, Alex.
You're muted there.
Yeah, slight operator error on that one. But anyways, what's up?
Do we have news? Is Gafara running the full season? Do we know?
Yeah, so that's my thing. There's a lot of good drivers, but you don't know if they're running the full season. Gafara would have been easily in my top 5.
If Gafara's running the full season, he's in my top 5. But this is gonna be if Caleb's not running the top 5, not the full season. So
Alex, that sounds like some intel that you need to get on Friday.
That sounds like some intel.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it for you. That'll be the first question I ask. Matter of fact, I'm not even gonna get a wristband. I'm kidding, Joe. I'm kidding, Joe. I'll get a wristband, and then I'm gonna go to Caleb's tent.
Charlotte takes it seriously, bro. Like,
yeah,
they got 24/7 security out there. Like,
no messing around at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and that's a heads up to anybody going to the Charlotte Motor Speedway this weekend. All the people that work there, all the employees are lovely, but if you don't have a wristband on by the second day, you're not getting on the premises, and that's just blank. You're not getting on the premises.
All right, so top 5. If Caleb's running, he's in. We can revisit this if I find out that he's running on Friday. But for now, I think my number 1 pick's going to shock you guys a little bit after what I told you my order is going to be for Charlotte. But I think in 5th, I like Rafa. I think Ryan Rafa is going to be a solid top 5 championship contender. He's a consistent driver. I think he'll get good results. I think I like Ryan Rafa 5th. I think 4th, ultimately give me Brandon Carr. I think for the same reason that Emory mentioned. I think I'm predicting the same situation that happened last year. Started out really strong and then kind of started to fade towards the end of the season. To no fault of anybody, really. Just people started to figure out the engine package, and like you said, the one track that he was really, really fast at was Trackhouse, which is actually the end of the season. So we'll see how that plays out. But I think Carr, even though I have him winning this weekend, I think a 4th in the championship is a good result. I think the likes of Terlecki. I like Terlecki 3rd. I think Terlecki's going to be able to put together a good campaign, solid top 3 spots. I think Terlecki will get a win this season in the Oken package. So I like Terlecki in 3rd. I like Ramos second. I think you can't count out Diego at any racetrack. I have, for the exact same reason, Kaleb, as you had Diego in second.
Yeah.
He's fast at Newcastle. He's fast at MCC. And decent at Trackhouse as well. So I think the tracks that were going to suit his driving style, I think there's this one guy that I'm going to put ahead of him. And it's actually a driver that I didn't even have in my top 5 this weekend. So I like Aiden Fox winning the championship. I think the tracks coming up after Charlotte suit Aiden. He was fast at Newcastle last year, and I think he'll be quick at MCC. And I'm predicting a good Trackhouse campaign as well. So I think Aiden Fox, while I don't have him in the top 5 this weekend, I have him 6th. I think he'll make a good comeback. Good comeback in the championship, and I like Aiden Fox winning the championship here.
Yeah, if Aiden could come top 5 this weekend after the Purdue Grand Prix hangover, I have to say, I'm expecting some big things from him over the course of the season. But speaking of that, I'll have him like Caleb. I'm gonna put him in my 5th place spot. I think that he has a lot of pace at Newcastle and Cincinnati. I have no doubts that he's gonna be up at the front there. This weekend, a new track layout, one that I think fits other guys. Caleb Gaffera, for example, has the home track advantage. You have Diego Ramos coming in. It's going to be it's going to be interesting layout to see kind of how that plays out. Maybe that doesn't necessarily factor or favor Fox, but I think he still puts in a solid campaign to get 5th. In 4th place, I like Peyton Phillips. I think that Phillips has been consistently really good on the KA side of things the last couple of years. And into the OKN category, he's been in the top 15 or so, top 10, pretty much every time he stepped into the 125 stuff. So I like Peyton Phillips to finish 4th in the championship. In 3rd, again, this is contingent on the guys that I expect running the full campaign to run the full campaign, the guys not running the full campaign to not run the full campaign. If you want more questions on that, just shoot me a text, whatever. I'll try to explain my logic as best I can. But guys like Caleb Gafford, I'm assuming are not running the campaign. Other guys are, I just don't have them in the top 5. But in 3rd place, Nick Terlecki, again, like Alex said, I think he wins a race in Oken, delivers the first national win to Coach Driver Development at some point. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't see it happening this weekend per se. I don't have him winning, but Newcastle, MCC, GoPro, or Trackhouse, all good places for that to happen. And Terlecki, I think, has been shown the consistency that you need to run up at the front of a championship, of a national championship. So I have Nick going in 3rd. 2nd and 1st, Diego Ramos, Brandon Carr. In what order? Well, I have Diego finishing 2nd. I feel like the PSL guys are going to get the OKN stuff down. Diego's going to be quick at every round. He's a very good driver. He's going to 2 tracks that suit him really well. I think he does so at GoPro, and also the other thing at Trackhouse, again. But the other thing with Trackhouse that you have to factor in is that you're going to get probably some more local guys at that race and guys that have a lot of experience, and that's going to kind of push Diego down. So for him, the first 3 rounds are the money rounds. I think that's going to play kind of against him a little bit, but I still have Diego finishing 2nd in the championship. And my P1 is Brandon Carr. I think he defends the Stars Championship. Even with a rocky start in Charlotte, I still think that he's going to be able to overcome it because he's been quick at every single track we've gone to. I trust the Trinity boys. I think that Carr gets it done down the stretch. And with a win at Trackhouse, a couple strong results at Cincinnati and at Newcastle, I think he'll come away with the championship. But again, such a tight field. I feel like this is one of those fields where there's a lot of guys that are similar caliber drivers, and it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to see who can get this set up. The other thing, too, is it's year 2 of the OKN engine. And I don't know how much you guys have been around the engine scene over the last few years, but when you go from year 1 to year 2 of an engine, there tends to be a lot of development. I remember in the KA side of things, from 2017 to 2018, we found 2 to 3 tenths of a second just in engine development, with engine builders kind of fine-tuning some new secrets, with the tuners kind of finding an extra bit. So that'll be worth watching to see how that develops. We saw the same thing with X30 way back when they started introducing it in about 2015. So it's a new year of OKN, new surprises in store. Still going to have Brandon Carr winning the championship. Alex, of course, has has Aiden Fox win the championship. Caleb Viesca has Diego Ramos. So we got 3 different champions, 3 different reasons, and a fun OKN field to watch. But that's just one of the 2 pro categories. The second one is Yep. The second one is we've got Shifter, Pro Shifter, a stacked entry list here. We got the likes of AJ Myers back in the Stars Championship Series. Talon Yockel making his SOTY debut after it got delayed from USPKS Texas. A number of interesting guys coming in this weekend, of course. The likes of Jay Irwin after a podium run up in Orlando. He had a really strong showing there. Annie Rules back for another year. Josh Conker is here for Stars at Charlotte. You've got Justin White coming back aboard the Maranello. Charlie Stein showed a lot of pace in Cincinnati at the Club Series we were covering, as well as at the last Stars race. Ian Quinn, a guy that has experience around Charlotte, probably more than pretty much anyone this weekend. So 15 drivers so far on the entry list. Caleb, what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of movers since we last came into the Stars Championship Series, right? Talon Yockel, the reigning champion, looking to beat his mentor and longtime friend in AJ Myers and that Magic Cart team. So Talon definitely one of the ones to watch on the on the Racing USA Shifter side. Josh Conker, a fresh start for him with the JFM team up in Canada. Coming out to the Stars Championship Series on the factory carts, the Billy Musgrave factory carts. So, Josh is always quick at the Stars Championship Series and is gonna be one of the drivers to watch here this weekend on the new factory cart. A cart that's really been developed for the shifter side. So excited to see how Josh comes along in this one, and can't fail to mention Jay Irwin, right? With the Burrell team, was really strong at the SCUSA Pro Tour, beating the likes of AJ Myers that race, and he's definitely going to be one of the drivers to watch this year, as well as Justin White. It looks like he's going to be the leading Maranello driver this weekend. Had a good year last year, and I think he's going to have a year where he really comes into his own this time around. And I would say as well, right? Some sleepers that you could see get into the top 5. Ian Quinn and Annie Rule, drivers that drove last year and are going to be definitely drivers to watch this year.
Yeah, Alex, any extra thoughts on the shifter field?
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it there, Caleb, right? A bunch of storylines here. I think the exciting one for me is Talon on the SOTY, first race for him on the new package. So, like you said, going to be going after his mentor there on a different chassis now. So, AJ versus Talon part, whatever it is, coming to you this weekend. I think Conker's going to be fun, back in the seat. Good to see Josh back, and he's been excited. I talked to him, at Homestead earlier this year, and he's excited to get back in the seat. I think this is a long time coming on the shifter side of things, and I think this is a track that's going to suit his driving style a lot. A fast flowing racetrack, similar to what you see over there in Canada, without all the elevation that they have over there. But for Josh, exciting times for him back in the seat. For me, I think Annie's back, right? Eli Fox is one that I'm actually looking at because he's been getting better and better on the shifter package. So Eli Fox is a sleeper in this one. Ian Quinn, like you said, probably the driver out of the whole field that has arguably the most laps around this place. I don't think there's anybody that has more laps than him on the shifter side of things than Ian Quinn. So Ian's one to watch for sure. Charlie Stein's obviously one to watch, and then Jay Irwin, right? Jay Irwin. I'm not going to get into my picks just yet, but Jay Irwin is definitely one of the drivers in my top 5. I'll say that right now.
All right, Alex. So tell us why you think Jay Irwin's going to win the race, and give us your top 5.
I just from what we saw at the Pro Tour, that was so impressive to me at Orlando. Jay Irwin put on a show to be able to contend with the likes of Marion, up there with Morgado, his teammates, for a while on that one. Running similar laps to what Morgado and Danny were doing to get a podium at that strong of a field is tough to do, especially on one of your first times here in the States and running the KZ side of things at the ripe age of 15, I think, as it was in Orlando. So, yeah, super talented driver. And I think Jay is my pick for the win. But in terms of the top 5, it's tough. I think this is one of those fields where we really have no idea because shifter around this track, it's a question mark. And so a lot of these drivers haven't been here. We don't see shifter on this racetrack. So this is a complete reset for these guys heading into this weekend. Tire wear is going to be a factor for sure on board these shifter carts. So whoever can get it right, they're going to have the upper hand. In terms of my 5th place driver, I like Justin White. I think Justin White is one to look out for. I think he's gonna be very, very fast. He was quick last year. He's been very, very quick and improving every single time he's out in the shifter cart. So Justin White's a top 5 pick for me. I think 4th, this is where it gets tricky because there's about 3 guys. Because I already picked Irwin to win. It's Conker, Myers, Yockel. Those are the guys that I think are going to be battling it out. And I can't count out any of them for the win, right? I mean, that's just the name of the game here. I think the likes of Josh Conker, with him being kind of fresh back in the seat, not as many laps as what we see from the rest of these guys. I think Conker's going to be 4th. I like Yockel in 3rd on the Sodi cart there. I like Myers 2nd. And yeah, I like Irwin to win. But I think it's not going to be easy for Jay Irwin at all. I think we're going to see some trades for the win. This might be one of those championship series where all 4 races, there's 4 different winners. It wouldn't surprise me at all. With the racetracks that we're going to and the different strengths and weaknesses that we see from these drivers, these chassis on these racetracks that we're going to in the Stars Championship Series. So it wouldn't shock me at all if we have 4 different winners. And I think this championship's going to come down to, one of the last laps. So yeah, I like Justin White, Conker, Yockel, Myers, Irwin. That's my top 5.
Nice.
Solid. All right, Caleb. Let's see what you got for the top 5. I'm gonna quit telling me that I'm giving you tough questions, okay?
Yeah, I mean, tough question, right? But this one, I got to go with a kid who's in his junior year of shifter racing, new team, a fresh start for him. It's got to be T-Money Yockel, Talon Yockel, reigning champion. I really see him, winning here in Charlotte this weekend. But I don't see it without a battle of the ages against AJ Myers, Jay Irwin, Josh Conker, and well, I didn't even think about my last 5th. I'm gonna have to go with Ian Quinn up there in the top 5 as well. So I got Yockel P1, AJ Myers P3. I see Jay Irwin. I see the young guys taking the fight up to the front. So I got Yockel winning, Jay Irwin 2nd, AJ Myers 3rd. I got Conker 4th, and Ian Quinn cracking into the top 5.
Man, y'all made that easy for me.
All right, let's hear it.
We got AJ Myers P1.
Okay.
Are we sleeping on a guy that during this first half of last year, outside of the first 3 races where he had mechanical failures, there was a stretch of races from about April to Utah where AJ Myers was darn near unbeatable. He was on pole at Supernats. He's been in the top 3 basically every race he's driven dating back to last year outside of Orlando. Was Orlando great? No, but Orlando's also been kind of a little bit of a bogey track for AJ the last few years. So I personally don't see a ton of issues with that. So I'm going to take AJ Myers as P1. I feel like that was kind of gifted to me on a platter. Don't feel bad about duplicating picks anymore.
Okay.
2nd place, you guys have mentioned a lot of stuff about Jay Irwin and Talon Yockel. I think both of them are good shouts for the 2nd place. But you know what? It's been a while since we've seen Josh Conker up front of one of these races. And I really do feel like a fast-flowing track will fit Josh Conker pretty well. I see him doing well in this one. The first race on the factory cart, I feel like they'll have it rolling pretty well in that one. But again, 2nd through 5th really, I think, is all up for debate. Talon Yockel, first race on the Sodi cart, again, a guy that showed a lot of promise last year. I could see a little bit of growing pains with it being the first race where he really doesn't have a teammate to base off setup off of. Because if you think back to last year and years prior, he's really had Michael Riccio, he's had AJ Myers, he's had Andrew Bidoso to kind of bounce data off of. Now he's kind of going into a little bit blind with no real teammate to work with. So a little bit of questions on that front, but I still think Talon's going to scrape out a top 3 here, which we'll get into later in the championship, but I think it's not a big deal. Jay Irwin in 4th. I liked what he did in Orlando. I feel like he's got a lot of potential. Again, first race in Charlotte for the PSL boys. Only getting a couple of different sessions to get into the flow of things. I feel like as a younger driver, that might be something that catches out Jay Irwin just a little bit. So I'll put him in 4th, but I think he'll be up there as well. And then, Caleb, I'm just going to copy your pick from 5th. I think Ian Quinn's a good one. I think he's had a lot of laps around this track. He's shown good pace. People forget Ian Quinn in the X30 and the KA side of things has shown great potential at different times. Not even mention his 206 racing. He's got a lot of deceptively good experience when it comes to running towards the front of the field of national races, continuing to get more experience on the shifter side of things, kind of the similar sort of story as Talon Yakel. I think this season he puts it in and ends up inside the top 5 with a 5th place finish. So Talon Yakel in the top 5, Ian Quinn in the top 5, Jay Irwin in the top 5, Josh Conker in the top 5. But give me the magic man himself, AJ Myers, to win the race. And Alex, who do you got winning the championship?
Jay Irwin.
Wow.
Yeah, I gotta do it. I have to do it. I think my picks for Charlotte are basically gonna say the same for the championship. I think in 5th I like Justin White. In 4th I like Conker. I think it's gonna be a battle between Conker and Yakel for that 4th and 3rd spot. I think that's gonna be the toss up for me in the championship of who gets that. But I like Conker in 4th. I think Yakel again 3rd, AJ 2nd, Irwin 1st. I think those are my picks for Charlotte as well. So remains the same here for the championship. I think that's what we're going to see. And I know I said there's going to be a class where we see 4 different winners. I'm going to put that out there now. I think it's going to happen. But nonetheless, I still think that's going to be the championship top 5.
Yeah. I see 4 drivers crossing the line at the same time, and it's a 4-way tie. Myers, Yakel, that's a joke. But taking the championship, I'm going to go into the comment sections for this one. Matt Del Sol said it best. I think the Magic Man, AJ Myers, wins the championship. You simply, AJ Myers at Newcastle, definitely untouchable. He was really quick there last year as well. We're going to MCC. I think he's going to be quick at MCC and at Trackhouse. He has a lot of laps around that place, and I think the Magic boys are going to be rolling. So I have Magic Myers taking the championship at the end of the year if he does run the full season, which I think he will. So I got AJ Myers, P1. P2, I got Jay Irwin. P3, I have Talon Yakel for the Sodi boys. 4th, I see it as a close battle in between. Same as you guys, right? I see the last of the podium places at the championship close in between Josh Conker and Talon Yakel. I think 2 drivers, like Emory said, I guess he kind of lit up a light bulb in my head, right? Definitely going to be, a learning experience for both drivers going to different tracks with different characteristics on new go-karts for the 2 of them. I still think Yakel's going to win this weekend, but it's a toss-up between Yakel and Conker for that P3 spot. So I'll just leave them both stagnant. And then in P5, I see Justin White getting up there in that 5th spot and in the championship overall.
I'm not doing my prediction until you say who's finishing 3rd versus 4th, because that's the single most important debate on this entire podcast.
Man, I think I'm gonna give it a Yakel. Yakel definitely, because Trackhouse is a home track as well, so I think he has two tracks that he's gonna drive well at. He was really quick at MCC last year too, and he's been good at Newcastle. So definitely. Going to be Talon Yakel P3.
Yeah, I think Talon Yakel, a good shout for P3. Look, AJ Myers, it's tough to bet against AJ, even at Talon Yakul's best. He's had races where he's been as quick, if not a little quicker than AJ. I mean, Newcastle last year comes to mind in both Pro Tour as well as, I believe, USPKS as well. So it's not like Yakul has not shown that level of speed, but it's going to be tough on a new team. Again, the first time really solo gunning it to beat AJ in a 4-round championship. I think I'm going to go with a conservative approach and say that it's not going to happen this time. I'll go AJ P1. Second, I think, is going to be Talon. I feel like the consistency there, he's been to every single one of the tracks outside of Charlotte. And I think he's actually been to Charlotte as well, but I'm not sure if he's driven the track. But either way, Talon Yakul second. If nothing else, Cincinnati, Newcastle, and Trackhouse, all tracks he has a good amount of laps around. So Yakul in second. Jay Irwin, I think, is a good call for third. Again, I like Jay. I think what he did in Orlando was really impressive. We'll see how he can do with no Mateus Morgado here. Again, the lack of data, I think, is something that on a new track is kind of underrated because you really don't get a chance to get a good comparison until you get down to race time, until you get a chance to really compare yourself with other guys. So I think that will kind of hurt Jay Irwin a little bit, but still Jay's going to have a solid third in the championship. Fourth place, Josh Conker. Again, I think he comes out of the gates really strong here in Charlotte, and he gets himself on the podium there and follows it up with a solid championship result. And fifth place, I didn't have him in the top 5 on this one. And actually, I'm going to amend my pick a little bit for this weekend. I have Justin White. I'm going to put him up in the 4th position for this weekend. I know I'm late changing it, but I just remember Justin White, when I ran against him in 2020 at this track, was very good. Not quite as good as Hayden Jones was around this place, which I believe Hayden's running in KA based off of what Corbett mentioned in the comments, but Hayden was the fastest guy around this track every time they went here in 2020. Justin White was the second quickest guy. I think this is going to be a good weekend for Justin White, rounding out inside the top 5. I'll take him in 4th, and I'll take him in 5th for the championship. So I know I'm being a big hypocrite here.
Emory, no, but and I'll tell you what, I'm gonna cut that off right now. Emory, before we proceed, it's like giving your dealer the bet. You're like, yeah, I want to double up. You don't get a good card, and then you're like, no. You know what? Like, I don't want to double up anymore. That's exactly what you just did. Trying to change your pick last second. I'm not gonna take it.
Okay, so anyways.
All right, bro. We're back. That's exactly what he did. We can go on all night on this, but that's exactly what he just did. You know, if we're playing high stakes blackjack, Emory's kicked out of the casino. You know,
I own the casino. Next question. Actually, that's a joke. That's a joke.
All right. I own it too, dude. I could definitely kick you out at the same time. So we're even here. We're even. But I think we finished this the shifter segment off. Remember to send in your questions as we'll answer as many as we can. But yeah, I think it's a good time with Emory changing his bet here. It's a great time to send into this quick commercial break.
Colin, I need a new 219 chain. I need a 77 tooth sprocket. I need some more chain lube, and I need it probably as soon as like tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, are you even listening? Like, we need this to run this weekend.
Want anything else?
What do you mean?
I already got it in the car on Acceleration Kart Racing's online store, bro. All orders over $200 get free shipping.
Oh, throw in a set of tires.
Done.
Everything you need, all in one place, and shipped to your door for free on orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Shop AKR.com.
Welcome back here to the casino, aka KC Grid Talk, powered by ShopAKR.com. My name's Emory Lida. Again, with me, Kaleb Vieska, Alexander Searle. We've just wrapped up previews and predictions for both round number 1 of the Stars Championship Series in OKN and Shifter, as well as the season preview. And now we're kind of wrapping up this episode. Sorry, as I had to get my phone because I have a couple questions on there that I may or may not have chucked when Alex said a certain prediction earlier. So that was not great foresight on my side of things, I will say. But Anyways,
What was it? Was it after my Jay Irwin pick?
yes,
It's a good pick.
it is a good pick. It is a good pick, but it's it was very on brand. I think we've got to establish at this point that this year the Alexander Stoll brand has moved on from Ernesto Rivera to Jay Irwin. That's
Hey Emory, but before we proceed, there's something behind you on your little nightstand that's back there. All right, Alex. Now that it's just the two of us, let's get into this Q&A. We get set. All jokes aside, but yeah, some questions came in over Instagram. I think we only had two. So Emory, if you want to read the first one out for us here.
yeah, kicking out the person that sent you the questions is a really bold strategy.
Well,
Anyways, starting out with No Context Kart Chaser asks, where is the best place to watch Kart Chaser? Kaleb, do you have any insights or analysis on this one?
I mean, I usually watch Kart Chaser as it's live, so as we're making it. But I would say the place that I enjoy watching it the most, probably in my room, or in my living room here at my apartment in College Station. But I mean, the events that I don't work, I'm usually laying in bed, and just have my TV on and I'm watching Kart Chaser from my room.
Caleb, I'm disappointed, man. The amount of times you'll send us a video. You're at the Alabama game last year. You're watching Kart Chaser.
Yeah,
You're
that
at
is
the
true.
gym.
That's
You're watching Kart Chaser.
Yeah.
That's
the
the answer.
solar
I
eclipse.
Okay. Yeah. So it's a funny story. Solar eclipse this year in Texas. I was watching Kart Chaser because you can't go without it at the gym. And I still do this. I just obviously don't send videos like I do all the time. But I'm at the gym, doing the little stairmaster, and then shout out to A&M Rec Center. They have some nice screens on there you can watch YouTube at, and I get curious and I search up Kart Chaser and watch the streams back, or just watch whatever we're doing back. To answer No Context Kart Chasers, our good friend's question, I mean, anywhere and anytime is a good place to watch Kart Chaser. So yeah, literally anywhere.
Solid answer. You covered really well. I swear, outside of the on-air stuff, Caleb goes from being like the most sophisticated representative of the Kart Chaser brand to being the single most, like, I don't want to say unhinged, because it's a passionate support.
Careful here, careful.
He
It's
is
Kart
the
Chaser till the day I die, or
he is
until the
the
day I
most
get fired.
he is the most you know he's got the most passion, I would say, about showing the different ways you can watch and follow along with Kart Chaser. So kudos to them on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the gem's a good one. The Stairmasters, you got to motivate yourself to get back on the track somehow. So
Yeah, it's a good
you
one.
got it. Alex,
Got me there.
Yeah, I don't have any good ones like Caleb does. I think the gym's a good one, right? Riding the bike, put it on YouTube, you watch it. I think for me, it's right here in my bed. I'll kind of just put it on and listen to it while I'm driving. Speaking of listening to it, I mean, you can actually listen to this podcast in a little bit
Spotify.
on Spotify.
Yeah.
On Spotify
Yeah.
now. I was doing that the other day. That was pretty cool to see. So yeah, if you look up KC Grid Talk on Spotify, we actually show up now. So go do that. Give us a review, a follow as well, please. That would be greatly appreciated. But yeah, I actually do that. I listen back to our previous podcast there on the Spotify KC Grid Talk page. So I do that a lot. But yeah, I think the gym's a good one. Whenever I'm bored, I'll put on any of the previous races. They're all great. I'll be right here in my bed watching it. And yeah, I gotta show all the friends, what I'm doing on the weekends, why I can't hang out, and it's because I'm over here doing Kart Chaser things, chasing go-karts around. So, yeah, KC to the day we die, right, Caleb?
Or to the day we get fired. Hopefully not anytime soon.
so let's see. So two good answers from me in the last 2 weekends. So 2 weekends ago, I took the LSAT on Friday. On Saturday, I was sitting by the pool, watching dirt carts go around Talladega. Yes, while sitting at my apartment pool, just chilling, having a nice solid afternoon. That was
Why not?
wonderful
Hey.
relaxation. That's on the chill side. this past weekend, you may have noticed I was not working. I was not back on the chasing carts grind, and I was not on track at Trackhouse Motorplex. Instead, I was taking a weekend-long negotiations course that did not stop me from listening to what these guys were up to doing at Whiteland. They were so
Ooh.
on a serious note. We produced it in person, obviously. Production
Yeah.
crew was at the track. Kaleb and Alex were remote for this. I was watching them, hearing
Nice.
about that one going off the rails.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, me and Alex make it sound like we're at the racetrack because we want it to feel real. But unfortunately, we weren't there. If you guys thought that we were, then I guess me and Alex did our job to the best of our abilities to bring, at the raw emotions of being at the racetrack, because it's truly something else. But unfortunately, we weren't there. Yeah, I mean, hopefully we can go out there at some point this year. Hopefully if everything aligns and we have an open spot in our schedule. But yeah, unfortunately we weren't there, but we were we very much felt like we were there. I was sitting in this chair, this desk, for all 10 hours of the day, bringing you guys all the action with my fellow short king, Alex Searle, who we were out there announcing all weekend.
yeah.
Hey, Kaleb, you can't forget about the what do we call it?
New racing class.
It's Short King Senior.
There's a height max on it, 5'7" and shorter. So that's we have height caps. You got to be 5'7" or shorter. That's it. So Emory can't race. You're tall.
Cool. We've got our biggest superstar for the class on this podcast. So
Yeah.
I had a case study this weekend about about a certain mouse in Key Largo, Florida, and I'm actually just gonna pull this up now because I thought about our good friend Alexander Stroll and Kaleb Vieska too. So this case, I was reading it while we were live, or while they were live on Saturday, and I was like, I've got a friend that is just like this mouse, and his name's Alexander Stroll. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Okay, yes, it was the Key Largo cotton mouse. So
Yeah,
yes.
we're doing this broadcast, and I see a text from Emory. I look over, and he goes, "Oh, Alex, I found you," and it's a picture of this case study with a mouse, and I'm like, "What? This can't happen 2 weeks in a row. Like, I'm not going to continue to take the Short King slander. This is terrible."
Yeah.
Kaleb, we have to unite together.
No, I mean, yeah. If I had Alex on my shoulders, we'd be taller than the entire crew. So two short guys are taller than one. But we did have another question on Instagram, Emory. If you wanna get to that one here real quick.
Yeah, I got you. Enough short jokes. Of course, these two were. It's funny because Kaleb would always be the one to mention how short Alex was, and now
I'm an inch taller than him.
Yeah, and so now I finally united the two. Brody S Racing says, "Shout out to Kaleb." Yeah, shout out to Kaleb for sure, for real, on God. Also, first time driving at Charlotte compared to other national tracks. I mentioned this earlier in the weekend, or early in the show, excuse me. Very fast, very flowing. Tire wear, I think it's going to be an issue for the softer tire compound, and certainly with longer radius corners. Little less overtaking zones than what you would expect from a normal national layout. It's very wide. There's enough to kind of fit 3 to 4 wide around there. Do you want to do that? Absolutely not, but it is possible. And I'm trying to think of other things. Rear right tire, I believe, is the most worn tire on that track. So it's a rear limited circuit. And gearing wise, there's only one big straightaway to really gear for, so you're going to be a little bit higher than usual. That's on the technical side. On the driving side, smooth, consistent, be faster long radius corners. There's only really one heavy braking zone over the course of the entire track, except for in shifter and Oken. I would not advise those guys, but in KA and in the micro mini stuff, only one real heavy braking zone that you're on the brakes for too long for. But it's a fun track. Racing wise, again, I'm curious to see how it races, but certainly the layout should be unique in the sense that it's got a lot of fast and flowing corners to it. So,
Yeah.
Alex Hale, if you want to add anything, feel free to.
Yeah, so that came in from Brody Stoffel, hometown Houston kid. He's probably past his bedtime now, but if Brody's watching, hey, and yeah, I mean, like Emory said, right? Smooth hands is going to be important around this place. That's really big, big key thing, and adding to that, Emory, it being such a wide racetrack, choosing the right line to take around this place is going to be super important around here as well. So definitely going to be, two tips that I can give for this racetrack after watching it a couple of months back.
Yeah, there's your analysis from the most recent race winner of this entire podcast, Alex.
Okay, pal.
Hey, I have not won a race officially in almost a year. I won a race on track 5 months ago. Well, actually, I won in Daytona. That's not true. But aside from Daytona, which doesn't really count, yeah. Moral of the story: listen to Kaleb. Alex, you have anything else to add?
Yeah, you guys touched on it, right? I mean, smooth hands is kind of the name of the game everywhere we go, but especially here at a fast-flowing racetrack. Setup's gonna be important. Gearing, important to get it right, or you're gearing for one really important straightaway. One of the main passing zones is actually going into that left sweeper. You see a lot of drivers pull out and make the move there. In a majority of the classes that aren't, Oken or shifter, like Emory said, one major braking zone there. It's kind of like the main passing opportunity as well, a good crossover opportunity that you could see there into the final couple of corners. So, yeah, that's going to be something to look out for. And then tire wear. No matter what class you're in, it's going to be a problem in terms of just how, fast corners equal tire wear, especially that right rear, that right front will get eaten up pretty good too, just with how many left-hander sweepers we have, mainly just the one, but then the double left as well is pretty quick as well, loading the right side tires. So setting up for that, keeping an eye on your tires, playing the long game is going to be important throughout the heats. So yeah, but it's a fun racetrack, and I mean, I can't wait to go out there and watch.
Yeah, so real quick, Matthew Dosol mentioned that the right rear will be bad for the shifter and OK, and KO will be right front. When I ran it in KA back in 2020, again, the right rear felt like it was the most worn tire. I do think the right fronts are going to be chewed up as well. Tire wear, I don't think it's going to be too bad in KA or in the Mini and Micro, just because of the speed you're going, you're not really carrying enough to wear the tires too badly. I do think in KA it's going to be somewhat aware, especially with the new MG Red compounds playing the SH2 coming into play. But yeah, right front and right rear is going to be a bit more balanced on the wear and the KA stuff. But in X30 or in shifter and OKN, I can see for sure the rear and the front in general, all of it having significant tire wear. So yeah, good comment there from Matthew. I certainly think the right front will be chewed up more. Don't want to discount that at all. Another comment or another question we got from Corbett Jones. How about the K Stars class shoes racing? So unfortunately, we do not get the entries to the KA category. Again, it's Stars policy not to release the entry list prior to the weekend. We get special access to the pro category entry list. That's all that we have access to. I do know that basically all of the KA fields are more or less filled up. So there's been a lot of entries to KA. I know there's going to be a lot of fast drivers there.
Alan Isambard is racing, I believe.
Isambard's racing.
Yeah.
We'll get teams starting to trickle in their entry list. I can confirm that Emory Lida is not racing this weekend. Not that matters. Hayden had me covered at pretty much every race we did at Charlotte as teammates. So I'm not sure you'd be worried about that one. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a stacked KA field. Again, for those that did not pay attention to, or those that have not been paying as much attention to the pro show format, you can only run one of the two you can only run one pro category or a semi-pro category. So what that means is no overlap between the KA and the shifter, the KA and the OKN, or OKN and shifter if you wanted to try to do both at the same time. So that will mean that there's no doubles, but I do think the KA field's going to be stacked either way. I'd imagine the likes of Finn Bailiff and more are going to be in that field as well. So a lot of good guys running stars. We'll see the exact entry list in K, but I'm excited to watch it either way. Sometimes I wish I would be racing it. I think this weekend at Charlotte, I will say Charlotte in terms of my actual ability around that track, not the greatest. So, I think we're happy to be on the production side this weekend, but I think it's gonna be a really fun K race to watch in addition to the other pro categories.
Yeah, definitely excited for the weekend to get going. I'll be behind the mic alongside boss man himself, Xander Clements. Alex Searle is going to be giving us all the trackside action this weekend, pit reporting, doing all the pit reporting. Emory is going to be more behind the scenes this weekend. I believe switching, correct?
Yeah, they don't want to hear me talk. So
Hey, we get to hear you talk for an hour and 37 minutes on Grid Talk. So that's enough, right? That's enough.
Yeah, that's too much of me.
Yeah, but overall, excited to get going out there. I fly out Thursday, a later flight, unfortunately, because I have class and finals that I can't miss. So I'll be out there Thursday and looking to get some intel. And I think we are live 3 days this weekend.
Yes.
So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I believe Friday doing the last practice session and then qualifying, and then all day Saturday and then all day Sunday.
Yep. Well, it's a home race for me this weekend. I'm excited to be in Charlotte, the 704. Charlotte Motor Speedway, the place I graduated high school from, did all this cool stuff from. It's a place that's truly very fresh to my heart. And so when you see me behind the computer, behind the switching, just know it means a lot to me. And this weekend, it's the first pro show for stars. It should be a fun one. Again, Gail Vieska, Alex Stroll, you'll see them on the front lines this weekend. Alex in particular on the pit lane. Caleb Vieska is going to be alongside Xander Clements. I'm going to be behind the scenes doing work. We'll all be putting together a great broadcast for you guys to watch on Kart Chaser. Again, you can follow us along for the Grid Talk podcast on Spotify and wherever you get your podcasts. You can see the rerun of this on Facebook and YouTube. Again, Kart Chaser powered by shopakr.com. This has been another another week episode of Grid Talk, episode number 7. And we will see. I always miss it by one. Episode number 8 of Grid Talk, powered by shopakr.com. It's been a great week covering the Stars Championship Series preview, and we'll be back next week after all the action to run it back over again and discuss episode number 9, the post-race
there you go.
Of the Stars Championship Series. So from Emory Lida, Alexander Searle, Caleb Vieska, this has been Grid Talk, and we will see you next week.
See you soon.